Who doesn't love a good comeback story? And in the fantasy game, it could be critical to taking your team to the top of the table. We're going to break it all down for you. Top bounce back candidates for the 2025-26 NHL season on the latest episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Hump Day, my fantasy fanatics, and welcome back inside the lab to your daily 30-minute source for all things fantasy hockey and soon to be daily betting breakdowns. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. It is the Wednesday Hump Day edition, and today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Football season is just around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and get started to start planning your futures bets today. My friends, today, once again, it's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone, here for the everydayers that continue to hold us down and make us their first listen every single day. I can say from the bottom of my heart, I see you, I appreciate you, and it means the world to me that you're riding with me on these solo shows. I continue to show love to my co-host on recovery, Mr. Steele Roden, one of the best in the fantasy business. He'll be back very soon, I promise, and I hope the solo analysis from your boy has been bringing you guys some angles that are going to get you to the top of the table in these upcoming fantasy drafts. Today's show, bounce back candidates. And I think there could probably be a part 2 to this episode. But when we're talking about fantasy sports in general, pegging a bounce back, pegging a player that, and I don't want to say all of these guys are being overlooked because they're not. There's some obvious names on the board here. We got Dobson, Swayman, Matthews, Verhaeghe, and Svechnikov. Dedicated fantasy cats. They know what's good. But there are going to be some GMs in your league, especially if you're in a bit more of a shallow league with some new GMs. They're going to overlook some of these pieces, and we got to peg a bounce back. There's going to be value to be had. So I got the D-men's. I got a couple of goalies. I got forwards, of course. Let's get one of the more obvious ones out of the way early in Noah Dobson. This is also the only player that truly gets to benefit from a complete reset in scenery. Obviously being traded from the Islanders to the Canadiens. We've talked all about it. What I think we need to talk about is this player's ability to potentially return to a 70-point season that he racked up only 2 years ago. And a lot of people out there will say he was the victim of the New York Islanders. Well, the New York Islanders didn't change too much year to year. So maybe it was a little bit of Noah Dobson getting that in around the years kind of vibe for confidence, because 2 years ago, 70 points, 36 penalty minutes, 180 blocks, finishes in 8th in Norris voting, starting to really emerge as that fantasy blue line option that we all wanted to rely on him for. Let's also remember he is only going to be 25 years old entering this season. And after a year that had 39 points, minus 16 rating, only 28 penalty minutes, basically everything down across the board except for shots on net, there was concerns. However, when you change scenery in the nature that this player has, I don't think there could be a more of a 180 in difference from what is going on with the New York Islanders and what's going on with the Montreal Canadiens. You have a ton of really good, not just young talent, but a few years into the NHL talent established in the names of Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, and others in this top 6 forward group. There's a lot to like about the Montreal Canadiens, which means this bounce back candidate in Noah Dobson fits the bill to a T. I expect 65 plus points from Noah Dobson. I don't think that's a stretch. He is such a good puck carrying defenseman, a two-way player that is honestly kind of been buried on Long Island, and perhaps all he did need was a reset. You look at what we've been bringing up a lot, and I'm going to do this with every single player, where they've been ranked on some of the major ranking boards, NHL.com, Daily Faceoff, Matt Larkin, Noah Dobson comes in on the top 200 NHL.com board at 111th. And on the Daily Faceoff top 300 board, I believe he was very similar. He was 108th. I think that is a very accurate description of where he should go. However, it comes down to this, and I had this in my notes. Steele and I disagreed a little bit. To me, it's Lane Hudson's power play one. He proved way too much upside in his first year in the NHL. That kid is an absolute stallion. To me, I don't see Marty St. Louis putting Noah Dobson on the power play one. It would make sense to me that he spreads it out. That second power play unit in Montreal leaves a lot more to be desired than what's going on with power play one. So the deployment is an angle that I wanted to mention with Noah Dobson. I don't see him being much around after the 8th or 9th round. You guys should be going out there and grabbing him. I love him as a bounce-back candidate. I have a lot more players that I want to get to. By the way, your boy will be back later in the week, Friday, Saturday, another mock draft Monday. Make sure you smash that follow button, subscribe. I think I said smosh. That's a little bit weird. Anyway, this is why it happens when Steele's not here. Smash the follow button, subscribe, drop us those reviews. Means the world. I see you guys all in the comments. Absolutely love it. It means hockey season is drawing near. So Noah Dobson, obvious one. Let's get that out of the way. I apologize if I'm rambling. Need my boy here to check me. Hit me with what you guys think about this one. Not as sexy. Jeremy Swayman heads into this season after a campaign that saw him rack up an .892 save percentage, 3.11 goals against average last season, and a 22, 29, and 7 record. Still 4 shutouts, and this is still a goaltender that, look, the contract negotiation last year, a little bit of a holdout, late to coming in, that affected him. The first year of having to take the Linus Ullmark security blanket out from under him, that's another angle. He doesn't have to deal with that this year so much as like a lot of changes going on. Yeah, he still has to be the number one, and this is a Bruins team that is likely the 6th or 7th best in the Atlantic Division. However, I kind of like the makeup of their blue line. Yeah, they allowed a ton of goals against last year near the top of the table, and the same thing with shots against. Nikita Zadorov, Hampus Lindholm, Charlie McAvoy, Mason Lohrei. I like that top 4 forward group. Fantasy aside, I think that's actually a solid group that should do fairly well for Jeremy Swayman this season. We know the weakness of this Boston Bruins club comes up front. Casey Middlestat, Pavel Zacha, and Victor Arvidsson as their second line is a scary thought to think that they're going to have to rely on that unit for offense. Fraser Minton, question marks. Tanner Jeannot, Morgan Geekie. You got David Pastrnak and Elias Lindholm, and after that, it's a concern. However, Jeremy Swayman, to me, in his career has proven that he is a really good goaltender. And when you put the madness that was the start of the season aside, and I wanted to bring this up because he was not good to start the year. Last year, 3-4-1 and an .886 save percentage to start the year. So that's where I think those distractions really kind of played in. This team isn't going to be as bad as everyone expects. I'll say that. And Jeremy Swayman is a goaltender that I think still holds a ton of value, especially if you're going to buy into that zero-G strategy. 172 ranked on NHL.com, 159th on Daily Faceoff. You can wait for him, and I still think you're going to get some value, especially with those numbers in the categories bouncing back. That's just me, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. I've got 3 more players to talk about, including one very near and dear to my heart in Auston Matthews. However, we got to show that love to our friends, today's sponsors. At Monarch Money, most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth. Whether it's a 401k, properties, investments, if you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table, and that's where Monarch Money comes in, an all-in-one personal finance tool that keeps your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface. Monarch Money is built to help people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch Money is for you. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com. in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNHL. Thank you so much for joining me once again for the latest edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Sincerely, thank you so much for continuing to ride with us. All the comments on the YouTube channel, the feedback, leave us those reviews. It means the world to us. And we still have an important request for y'all. Locked On wants to hear from you, where they've put together a survey to learn more about all of our listeners to make all of our pods even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't like, and answer the questions about all the advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started, and everyone who completes a survey entered into a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Lockedonpodcast.com/survey. We'll get the plugs in and we'll get back to business, my friends. I'm going to have some special guests, by the way, on the podcast over the next couple of weeks. It's full court press now. I've got drafts coming up. By the way, listener leagues as well. More information coming for you guys. I appreciate the interest in our 2 listener leagues. We'll see maybe if we have enough and Steele and I can figure out a few more minutes in the day. Maybe we get a 3rd league going. Bounce back fantasy hockey targets for the 2025-26 season. We got Noah Dobson, Jeremy Swayman. Let me take a deep breath, pause and exhale. Auston Matthews. I said Noah Dobson is the most obvious one off the top. And when you talk about a player in Auston Matthews who still scored 33 goals and 78 points in 67 games, maybe you'd be right in saying bounce back candidate is a stretch. When you have expectations that Poppy has set as a surefire 45-plus goal scorer, 40-plus goal scorer, however you want to count it on the goal side, and a player that has really rounded out his two-way 200-foot game before last season, 92 blocks, 93 blocks, and 89 block shots 3 years in a row, 78 hits, 90 hits, last year down to 45. He's bringing it with his positional work, with his work in the defensive zone, and in our deeper leagues, that means he has a whole ton of value. I'm not here for the Auston Matthews slander. I believe Brian Boyle and Michael Rupp were on an NHL.com podcast, 2 guys who know a lot more about hockey than I do, for certain. They played in the NHL. They were Warriors. However, putting Jack Hughes ahead of Auston Matthews in any centerman ranking is not only a mistake, it doesn't make sense. I see the upside. I see Mike Rupp played his entire career or most of his career for the New Jersey Devils. He's an analyst for the New Jersey Devils. I don't want to get off on a tangent about Mike Rupp. Auston Matthews is a prototypical bounce-back candidate. The injuries last year were a concern. You've seen what I've done, hopefully, if you've been tapped into the pod, by drafting in the 7th, 8th, or 9th spot. Auston Matthews is still around. This is going to be a big year upcoming for number 34. Not only is Mitch Marner out of the picture, and yes, I understand everyone's concerns about a 100-point player not being there to feed number 34 the biscuit. It's been his team for a reason. The pressure is on, and now more than ever, you will see the best out of Auston Matthews, good or bad. Like, best might not exactly return to 69 goals, guys, from 2 years ago. But what I'm trying to get at in terms of fantasy value and the disrespect being thrown to this player of this caliber doesn't make any sense. Let's also not forget that you can say what you will about the Maple Leafs in the postseason. They will still run out a forward power or a power play group that has Johnny T off of a great year, William Nylander, one of the best wingers in the game, and Matthew Knies, one of the best rising stars in the game. And don't forget about that either. That will be Auston Matthews' winger. Those 2 can do some damage. I don't know who's going to fit in the mix. Michelli, Max Domi. Those are obvious questions. Questions don't hang for me around 34. He's going to bring it. He is going to bounce back. And when I look into, all of the comments that have been thrown his way over the last 2.5 seasons, I usually don't hate on them. Yeah, he hasn't been able to get it done in the clutch. Sure, he's been banged up. Has he always handled the media the best? Maybe not. But he is for real. And if you want to pass on a guy who I think returns to 45 goals or more with relative ease, quote unquote, I think he fits the mold as a bounce-back player in a very, very big way. The Toronto Maple Leafs should be fighting for a top 3 spot in the Atlantic Division. I'm running a little short on breath, my friends. Why don't I take a little sip of this ice-cold Budley I got here? Appreciate that. Don't mean to get in the way of talking about one of my favorite players that I've gotten to over the last couple of seasons in Carter Verhaeghe. First of all, shout out to the Niagara Ice Dogs. Shout out to Carter Verhaeghe, one of the Hall of Fame greats of the Niagara program. 40 goal scorers, funny enough, we were just talking about Poppy. 40 goal scorers don't come around in the NHL at this day and age very often. And this guy is only 2 years removed from 42 and 34 goals in 76 games only 2 seasons ago. Last year's 20-goal performance in 81 games, especially for me, I have him in my Keeper Dynasty League. I go out there and draft him. I don't just tell you guys to draft players. I want them myself. He was disappointing, most definitely. 241 shots on net, not too much of a dip. You got the hits up. You got the blocks right about the same. It was that offensive output. 8.3 shooting percentage for Verhaeghe, a massive dip off of 13% and 15 the year before. However, I will implore you not to sleep on this player. If the projections hold true and if it makes sense, at least he's going to be in the top 6. But if he sticks with Matthew Tkachuk being out for the first little while on the top line with Barkov and Reinhart, I don't think I need to sell you any more here. This is the back-to-back reigning Cup champs. You want Carter Verhaeghe real bad. Do not overlook this player for a single second. One of the more underrated shots in the NHL today. And how about what he's been able to get done in the clutch and in the postseason? We come on here and we talk about separating sometimes what you see on the ice in terms of players affecting their team's ability to win games and push themselves through in the standings from fantasy value. However, postseason performances from Carter Verhaeghe reinvigorate my confidence in this player bouncing back tenfold. 2 seasons ago when they missed out on the Cup, 17 points in 21 games. 21 points 2 seasons ago in 24 games. And just last year, how about a point per game postseason player with 23 points in 23 games? And also, over the course of those 3 seasons, how about 10 game-winning goals? This guy's a stallion. I've spoken about it at length. Please, please, please listen to Uncle Flip on this one. That's why I had to bury him a little bit in the episode to make sure you guys were staying tapped in. Carter Verhaeghe, definitely that bounce back player that I'll be going after this year, and I'm okay if you guys want to pass on him. Ranked 98th on NHL.com's top 200, 96 on Matt Larkin's daily faceoff top 300. Let's see what he can do. I got one more player that I want to talk about right around the break on yet another good team that also got reloaded in the Carolina Hurricanes. We'll be here all next week as well in the lead up to the season. More mock drafts. Make sure you are right here. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. We love getting our money in on FanDuel because it's the best spot to be doing just that. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making every kickoff a can't-miss offer. New customers bet $5. If your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes everything more exciting. Whatever you're watching, team, props, or everything, keep an eye on your fantasy lineup. FanDuel is your go-to, quick and easy, and the best way to add a little bit more energy to your Sundays. You ready to play? Download the FanDuel app today by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com, and make sure you get in that first $5 bet. Here we go, my friends, finishing up our Wednesday episode. Once again, solo with your boy, Big Flip Livingstone. Can't say enough about how fired up I am for the fantasy hockey season. I'll keep teasing it. Our listener leagues will be opening soon. If you're interested, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, X. Hit us some DMs. We're always here to answer questions in addition to the listener league. I had to almost do this last player. Not only does he fit the mold for bounce back, and he is on a really good reloaded Carolina Hurricanes team, bringing in K'Andre Miller, bringing in Nikolai Ehlers, Andrei Svechnikov. is a guy that came out of the Barrie Colts we're up to 7 years ago on his draft. He's only 25 years old. He's been in the league since he was 18. Barrie Colts, second overall pick, who really is a physical presence, who the main thing here is he can't stay healthy. He has only played one 82-game season, and that was back when he was 18 years old in the 2018-2019 season. So drafting this player comes with that risk, most definitely. And it's almost like that polarizing risk because, and this is the perfect reason why I like bringing up these rankings from all these other experts, he's ranked 127th on NHL.com and 70th on Daily Faceoff. And sure, I think they base their format somewhat differently, but I think that goes to show you how somewhat of a polarizing fantasy piece this player has been. My boy Steele loves Andrei Svechnikov, and that's because when you look at a player who can throw up 140 plus hits in 4 consecutive seasons and still bring 20 plus goals, 30 plus assist type value on a good team, and he really is just kind of entering his prime now, this guy might fit a whole bunch of different molds. Sleepers, bounce back, value picks, Andrei Svechnikov. I feel like I'm tipping my hand far too much on today's episode, my friends. So please show your boy some love in those comments. Smash that 5-star review. However, 72 games played last year, 59 games the year before, 64. He was an all-star that year. That is the reason why he's not ranked higher. That is the reason why taking him even a little bit too early, like let's say you reach on him in the 6th or 7th round, which I think is a little bit too early. I'd wait to the 8th or 9th, in my opinion. Maybe that's a little bit too late. It will come with that inherent injury risk. When you look at also the Eastern Conference and what the Carolina Hurricanes have done the last couple of regular seasons, that's where the confidence comes in with me in this player. They have that rejuvenated top 6 forward group. Love the peripherals. Like this player. I'm going to be going after him myself. And just to kind of throw a little bit of a degenerate betting angle on this whole thing, and I meant to mention this in our Auston Matthews angle, he is getting paid right now in terms of value for that Rocket Richard at plus 370, where you have Leon Draisaitl as the favorite at plus 320. Needed to leave a little betting tidbit for my degenerate friends out there that I'd be taking Auston Matthews for a bounce back Rocket Richard level season. However, bounce back level seasons, just to recap, Dobson, Swayman, Matthews, Verhaeghe. Don't be shy about getting in on them while other GMs aren't. Don't be shy about tapping into the rest of this week. I'll be back Friday. We'll have a Saturday special. And it's another big moment on Locked On. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly review. Take all of it in, where they lead the conversation along 2-time AP Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Hawley, and Locked On's local expert. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch it every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. Catch us right back here on your daily source for fantasy hockey, the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. And we will see you back here on Friday.